Ladies and gentlemen, we gather here not merely as observers, but as fellow pilgrims navigating the dark and luminous corridors of the psyche. Breathe. Tonight, I propose that we begin at a point of profound humility, the point where psyche and spirit touch, where the human soul confronts the question of God and of time. Imagine an expanse beyond all measure, a silent, infinite realm. That is the crucible in which the archetype of God is forged, not in the heavens above, but in the depths of our collective soul. This image, this inexhaustible symbol, speaks to the primal essence of meaning residing in every heart. It is neither fantasy nor mere fiction, but the psychic reality of the eternal as it dwells within us. The image of the divine arises within the soul as though it were a reflection cast upon a deep and hidden mirror. One may think that the figure of God descends from above, imposed upon us by tradition or doctrine, yet a more intimate observation reveals that it emerges from within, from strata of the psyche that lie far beyond our conscious grasp. This image is not invented by reason, nor is it the product of deliberate imagination. It is older than individual, carrying with it a numinous quality, a force that compels recognition. When such an image appears, whether in a dream, a vision, or in the myths that have shaped human history, we are confronted with the power of something that feels at once eternal and yet profoundly personal. What we encounter in this image is not a theological abstraction, but the presence of a psychic reality. The psyche produces these forms spontaneously, much as the body produces its own patterns of growth. The divine, then, is an archetypal configuration, a primordial pattern that does not belong to us individually, but is shared across the entire fabric of humanity. It erupts in the stories of gods and goddesses, in the symbols of light and darkness, in the awe that overtakes us when confronted by the vastness of the universe or the abyss of suffering. This reality is not a matter of belief. Even the unbeliever is not spared the encounter. It comes in the shape of overwhelming experience, in the sense of fate, or in the confrontation with death. To call this image a mirror is to suggest that it reflects something about ourselves that we cannot see directly. We stand before it as one stands before a great mystery, sensing that the gaze that meets us is not simply our own. In its presence we are both dwarfed and enlarged, humbled by its magnitude, and yet awakened to dimensions within ourselves that we did not know existed. The mirror of the divine shows us not what we wish to see, but what is hidden in the depths, the shadow, the longing, the possibility of wholeness. Throughout history, cultures have clothed this archetype in countless garments. The fatherly ruler, the motherly source, the child of renewal, the destroyer and the redeemer, all are variations of a single pattern. Though the names and forms differ, the psychic function remains the same: to orient the soul toward that which transcends its smallness, to give form to the formless, and to bind the fleeting moment to a sense of eternity. The multiplicity of these images should not deceive us into thinking that they are arbitrary. Each manifestation speaks to the collective need of a particular time and people, and yet beneath them all lies the same archetypal core. When we encounter this image inwardly, we touch the deepest layer of the unconscious. It is not we who create it, rather it creates us, shaping our sense of meaning and destiny. To recognize this fact is not to diminish the divine, but to situate it in the living reality of the human soul. It reveals that the mystery of God and the mystery of the unconscious are, in some profound way, inseparable, each reflecting the other like twin mirrors extending into infinite depth. The human soul does not live by one measure of time alone. To our outer life belongs the ticking of the clock, the ceaseless succession of minutes, hours, and years that drive us forward toward decay and eventual death. Yet beneath this flow lies another order, a dimension that seems untouched by duration. It is as though within the depths of the psyche time does not unfold but gathers itself, containing past and future in the immediacy of the present. In dreams we move freely across centuries, conversing with ancestors long gone or encountering images of a future not yet lived. Such experiences remind us that alongside chronological time there exists a timeless ground, a psychic reality that resists the limitations of linear sequence. This dual experience, of time that passes and of time that stands still, creates a profound tension in the soul. On the one hand, we cannot escape the temporal world. We are born, we age, and we die. Each moment that passes is irretrievable, and every action leaves a trace upon the unfolding narrative of our lives. But in another sense, the psyche contains an eternal dimension where nothing is ever wholly lost. A childhood memory, long buried, can return in full vividness, unchanged by the decades. An archetypal image, first appearing in ancient myth, resurfaces in the dream of a modern individual as though the millennia between had never existed. Within such experiences, we touch that paradoxical realm in which time collapses into presence. The reality of this timelessness is not merely a philosophical speculation, but a lived psychological fact. In moments of profound meaning, whether in love, despair, ecstasy, or deep insight, we experience what might be called an eternal moment. It is as if the ordinary world halts, and one stands in the center of a sphere where past and future radiate outward, but converge in a single point of consciousness. These moments may last only an instant by the clock, yet they possess the weight of eternity. They reveal that time is lived by the soul is not identical with time as measured by the instruments of science. Nevertheless, we must not lose ourselves in the illusion of timelessness alone. To exist in the world is to endure the burden of temporality. Without time, there would be no growth, no transformation, no individuation. The soul requires the sequential unfolding of life, with its repetitions and reversals, its patient maturation through suffering and experience. In this sense, temporality is not the enemy of eternity, but its companion. The eternal contents of the psyche, those images and archetypes that transcend individual existence, must enter the stream of time if they are to become conscious, if they are to shape and be shaped by the unique destiny of an individual life. Thus the psyche dwells in two orders at once, in the inexorable flow of chronological time and in the still depths of the eternal. To hold these two realities together is no easy task, but it is essential, for only in their interplay do we find the fullness of human existence. It is in this very tension, between what passes and what endures, that the mystery of the soul unfolds, and where the meaning of our lives is quietly, inexorably woven. Symbols arise in the soul as mediators between realms that otherwise remain divided. They carry the weight of eternity into the fragile fabric of time, and, at the same moment, allow the temporal experiences of human life to be lifted into a dimension of enduring significance. A symbol is not a mere sign or convenient metaphor. It is a living reality that binds together what cannot be reconciled by reason alone. Through it, the eternal archetypes of the unconscious find expression in images that speak to our finite existence, giving form to what is otherwise beyond comprehension. We encounter such symbols everywhere, within dreams, in sacred rituals, in works of art, and even in the spontaneous gestures of imagination. A circle, for instance, is not merely a geometric figure, but an image of wholeness, of the cycle that returns upon itself, suggesting a reality outside the linear flow of time. The cross, the tree, the spiral, the sun, these have appeared in cultures separated by continents and centuries, testifying to the universality of their origin. They are bridges constructed not by conscious design, but by the deep unconscious itself, arising whenever the human psyche seeks to reconcile its temporal fate with the pull of eternity. When such a symbol seizes us, we experience its dual nature. On the one hand, it belongs to the temporal world, appearing in a specific form, shaped by language, culture, and history. On the other, it points beyond itself, opening onto dimensions that escape time. In the presence of a powerful symbol, the soul feels itself stretched between two poles, the immediacy of earthly existence and the intimation of the infinite. It is precisely in this tension that the symbol derives its transformative energy. The necessity of symbols becomes evident when we recognize the limits of rational understanding. Concepts may dissect and define, but they cannot capture the fullness of the eternal. Symbols, however, speak to both intellect and feeling, to both conscious reflection and unconscious depth. They address the whole person, and in doing so, they awaken forces of meaning and transformation that no argument could ever evoke. A dream, for example, may present a symbol at the very moment when consciousness reaches its limit, as if the unconscious itself provides a bridge where reason falters. Through symbols the eternal becomes intimate. The archetypal reality, which lies far beyond the reach of personal life, finds a voice in images that the individual can grasp and live. At the same time, personal experience acquires a resonance that transcends its momentary character. A loss, a union, a vision, once clothed in symbolic form, becomes part of a story that binds the temporal life of the individual to a greater pattern. Thus symbols both ground and elevate. They hold together the fleeting and the timeless. To live without symbols is to be trapped in narrow passage of chronological existence, cut off from the wellsprings of meaning. To live with them is to stand at the threshold, where eternity touches time, where the invisible speaks through the visible. In the symbol, the human soul discovers a bridge that carries it beyond mere survival into the realm of depth, mystery, and transformation. The path of the soul is not a straight ascent toward some distant perfection, but a winding journey through the years of one's life, marked by encounters, losses, struggles, and revelations. Each of these moments is inscribed within the stream of time, and yet together they form a pattern that reaches towards something beyond time. This process, which unfolds in silence and often in secrecy, is nothing less than the gradual shaping of the individual into a whole. It is not imposed from without, nor is it simply the pursuit of personal desires. It is an unfolding driven by a deeper necessity, as though the soul itself were guided toward a hidden image waiting to be realized. This hidden image is not a fantasy of what we wish to become, but a reality that has always lived within us, long before we became aware of it. We move toward it step by step, often against our conscious will, for the psyche compels us through conflict, through dreams, through the eruptions of the unconscious that disturb the smooth surface of ordinary life. The journey is temporal. Years pass, the body changes, relationships come and go. Yet the goal is timeless, the discovery of an inner center that transcends the fleeting concerns of the moment. Every crisis along the way serves as both disruption and initiation. A failure may break apart the persona we have carefully built, but in doing so it opens a passage toward the deeper self. A dream may shatter our certainty, but it offers an image that hints at another order of meaning. In such experiences, the eternal speaks through the temporal, reminding us that the unfolding of our days is not accidental but guided by a pattern older and wiser than the conscious ego. The challenge is to endure this tension, to hold the opposites together without collapsing into despair on the one hand or self-deception on the other. The movement toward wholeness is never merely private. Though the work is carried within the solitude of the heart, it draws us into relation with the world and with others, for it is often through love, conflict, or loss that the deeper contents of the soul are stirred and brought into consciousness. The divine image within does not flourish in isolation. It comes to life through engagement with the temporal world, where the eternal pattern takes on the shape of lived existence. In this way, time is not an obstacle, but the very medium through which the soul ripens. To look back upon such a journey is to see that life has been more than a series of random events. There is a rhythm, a hidden architecture, a quiet unfolding of meaning. Individuation is not the attainment of perfection, but the acceptance of one's unique destiny, with its shadows as well as its light. In embracing this path, one discovers that the divine has never been elsewhere. It has always resided within, waiting to be revealed through the passage of time and the labor of becoming whole. And so let us close with this reflection. The divine and the temporal are not separate realms, but the soul's inner constellations. To engage with God is not to look upward, but to look within, to listen to the quiet voice of conscience, the whisper of archetype, and the unfolding of time in our own becoming, and in doing so we discover that we are not merely creatures of time, but also vessels of the eternal. Thank you for your presence, your courage, and your willingness to journey into the mystery. May each one of us touch the eternal in the pulse of now.